All right, guys.
Let me have a brief sermon right here. Since we are in the process of moving out this place, we just find a better place. We just find a better way and strategy in a church planting process right here. I'm so glad that God gave us this opportunity and God's providential, that placed on this, church planting ministry. So let's dive into the message. And today's message is about 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 31. It says, "So whatever you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God." This is a very famous verse in the Bible. Whenever your pastor saying like, "Oh yeah, do it for glory of God," and then everything's possible. And this verse is often used to for excuse someone who do some things ungodly. So I want to clarify that because the next chapter of this ministry is going to be like that. We're going to do something, out of the traditional format of the church. So in this setting, I've been trying to do, the ministry that mix of traditional way and kind of innovative way. But I think it is kind of limiting the thing that I was thinking about, the original idea of this ministry. So I'm just bringing it back to the very original idea. And so we find a new place. We find a better approach to the ministry. So we are now preparing the place and preparing all the requirements right now. So I am pretty happy. I'm pretty thankful to God. I'm very thankful, appreciative to Him. And to explain the situation spiritually, I brought this passage. So Paul, first in 1 Corinthians, to the people in Corinthian, is trying to teach the very basic, concept of faithful life. The spiritual standard of living their, busy life in city of Corinth. City of Corinth is gigantic. Very gigantic mega city even back then. There's so much of diversity going on. I'm not going to repeat this explanation about the background because most of the cities didn't appear in the Bible, especially where the Paul planted his church. Those are pretty same setting, like big and diversified. It's like a New York. So just think that way. And the cities like that, Corinth, and people have so much of opportunity and diversified, cultural experience while they're living in. Sounds like we are living right here. So I always prefer to bring this situation to explain the spiritual reality that we are living right here, because the very basic principles is not so different than where that world is and now. So Paul trying to clarify how do we live as a Christian, in that kind of society, like diversified and so much of opportunities. And, when you go out of the doors, there's tons of opportunities just lie down in front of you. And it's like you can pursue this, and you can have this hobby. And Paul's saying you can do it all for good. You can do it. You have a freedom since you're a son of God. But then he made just one point that we have to be cautious. Whenever there is something related to demonic activity, we have to really take care of it. Yeah? And then Paul starting chapter 10 in order to explain that very important point that something related to demonic power, demonic culture, we should be aware of it. We should be free from it. That's the one point. And other than that, you can do it all. You can do whatever you want. But even in that sense, you have to take care of one sense, which is you have to do it all things for the glory of God's kingdom. So this is a 2-point. Stay away from demonic activity and stay focused with the glory of kingdom of God. And in order to explain that, Paul starting with the story in Israel people, wandering around in the wilderness, and they explained that, says in chapter 2, verses 2, and all were baptized into Moses in the cloud and the sea, and all ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink, without vying down on any other god. So Paul started it. Yeah? It's not necessary for you to be involved with worldly culture. You can still live out. You can still survive. So when your pastor is saying, hey, you should be aware of that. You should be, stay away from those activities. And you can say, oh, wait, that's my job. That fits me. I got to do it. But to those people saying that thing, Paul exactly disputes you. Even Israel in the wilderness, they're not in the city. In the wilderness, nothing to eat, nothing to hide. They still survive without bowing down any other gods, any other country's god around, surrounding them. They just walk, and follow their gods, clouds and fire. Pillar of fire, pillar of cloud. They just follow them that to survive. Spiritual food, spiritual water, they said. And this, I'll say, is a providential guidance. But without you actually involved with any demonic, worldly culture, you can be still effective. You can be still survive. And Paul wanted to guarantee, not just dispute you, but Paul wanted to guarantee, don't worry. He got the cover. He got the cover of you. So don't worry about it. Just do what you need to do, which is glorify your kingdom, God's kingdom. And then he warns in verses 8, we must not indulge in sexual immorality, as some of them did, and 23,000 fell in the single day. There's so many type of demonic activity in this world. But specifically, Paul specified the sexual immorality. Right? I'm not exempted because I'm a man. I'm not a single man too. So I know what it is exactly. I exactly know what that is. But he's saying, he said this right after the story of Israel in the desert. Which means there should be some people that, I can't live without this kind of activity. I can't live without prostitute. And there's some people saying like legalizing prostitution because all men need that. Then if without prostitution, it will raise the sexual crime. That's why we need it. That's a human nature. We should have that. There's some people like that. When they're committing sexual immoral sin, they always excuse that it was inavoidable. I shouldn't have that. But that's just excuse. God will provide the way to escape. Right? Because verse 13, it said, no temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and He will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with temptation, He will also provide a way of escape that you may be able to endure it. So don't be troubled by the temptation. Don't be alarmed. There will be a way for you to escape from the temptation. In terms of sexual immorality, There's a way that God provides you to solve the problem, which is a marriage. Well, I'm not exempted. Like I said, I'm not exempt from the sin because I'm not married yet. You should get married. That's the only way for you to be neutralized from sexual immorality. You don't participate any prostitution, any pornography watching. You should be aware from it. You should stay away from it. You should be free from it. That's what it says. That's what Bible scripture is saying right now. No temptation will take it over you. And assure you, without that, maybe you may feel like you can live without that, but it's a lie. It's a demonic lie you are falling into right now. You can defeat it. You can win it. So by next thing, then he saying, do all to the glory of God. Well, he made a point. You don't have any excuse to do such a demonic activity. Like when I said demonic activity is like watching pornography or involved with producing pornography, or buying sex, paying sex, selling sex. These are all demonic activity. You should be away from it. There's no excuse doing such activities right now. And then Christ-winning culture will do whatever it is required in order to avoid it, in order to block it, in order to save people from those demonic activities, right? But there's so many other things that you could do, right? And then Paul actually clarified in verse 23, all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful, but not all things are built up. Eat whatever is sold in the meat market without raising any question on the ground of conscience, right? Paul said, right, you can do whatever because you have a freedom. But just avoid sexual immorality, just for sure. And while that, still you need to consider not your conscience, but others' conscience. Paul put an example of the food that offered to other gods, right? The food that offered to demonic power. He said, well, eating that actually has no problem. If you have right conscience, if you not actually worship that God that offered the food, it's good. But what about others' conscience? People watching over you. If you're eating that food, if they sees you that's eating that food, they consider you participate to the God. And they're saying, oh, this guy often said he only served God, but actually he ate that food, he participated the very ceremony for the demonic power or other idolatry, right? So when you do things, you need to take care of not just your conscience, but also others' conscience too. That's another condition. Then you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you think it is right. But why you need to do this? Take care of others' conscience, because you do these things, eating, drinking, whatever that you do, playing, you do these things for the glory of God, to glorify God. And you could have that question like, what's really deal with eating the food that offered to other God? Because when you're eating it, when you involved with that kind of activity, people think, oh, your God is not so different than this God, right? That's not a good way to glorify the only begotten Son, the only exists the true God. right? So that's why you need to avoid that kind of activity. Then we can raise another question. Hey, surrounding this culture, there's only few people actually offer food to demonic power and doing those kind of religious thing. Well, yeah, you're right. It's really rare for us to experience those kind of activity nowadays. So eating their food is almost impossible for people living in this urban area. So let me interpret in 21st century's world. Okay? So there should be activities and cultural, trend that actually heavily involved worldly culture, heavily involved the money worshiping, heavily involved with sex worshiping. Yeah? And then you should be away from it. You don't participate to it. So this week I repent. I was thinking about joining TikTok. Yeah? And I created an account, TikTok, and I followed the instruction that gave to me one of the promoters. And while I was doing it, it just idolized me. The look, I'm not good looking, but the lifestyle, money, the TikTok account and other people's TikTok accounts, like popular people's, there's not about like their thinking, like their idea sharing. It's almost 99% of the accounts is about their look, their lifestyle. So almost entire TikTok cultures based on idolize money and sex. And for that, people pay for that. TikTok, how the TikTok works, when you appear in the camera, people actually donate you. And I was thinking about, why do they donate to a stranger? Oh, they look good. They want to just worship that looking good person. They want to worship one person's life because their lifestyle was so luxurious, modernic, something worth to worship. They're not worshiping their doubt. They're not worshiping their mind. They're not worshiping the philosophical, abstract. But they just simply worship how they look. I was convinced to almost doing the TikTok because the one that recommended said, it's just really, really conservative platform. It will ban you if you open up your chest or anything, or if you say any sexual words, if you say any violent words, it will suddenly restrict you. Well, so I thought it was like a healthy platform, but it wasn't. It wasn't. It was just disguising way that TikTok promote people to come and join. And TikTok is basically worshiping the people's look. Yeah, there's Instagram. Instagram is kind of that, but it's worse version of that. And it's really fast-paced and then money rolling and then money-based, and then it will ruin your spiritual, concept that you have kind of basic doubts of God, basic doubts of humanity. It will destroy that. So outside is demonic activity. One of the prevalent, very dominant demonic activity nowadays. People worshiping people. People worshiping their money. People worshiping their look. So I'll say, I could do the TikTok. I'll gather people. I'll do my, motivational things in TikTok saying, I only talk about motivational stuff. But what's going on is like one of the promoter recommend me use a filter. And a filter made my face look good. Why do I have to do that? Because people loves it. That way you can have more people. But disagree. I want to talk about my contents, my Bible contents, or any motivational talk with them. I don't want them to focus on my look. I want them to focus on these contents. But there's also temptation in me, like, why not? Why not? If I look good, got more people, I got my own popularity, I got more money, I could do more things. But I think according to the Bible, what Paul said, if I do the TikTok and people's conscious instantly think, oh, Pastor Jay did the very same thing. Pastor Jay partake this culture that worship people's look and their money. Yeah, I could do my own TikTok. I have my freedom. But when I consider their conscience, I should avoid the TikTok. I should not even open the TikTok account that promotes any money or lifestyle other than glorifying God. YouTube is good. There's so many YouTubes like not about look. So we have to be very discerned. We have to be very clarified what culture you're involved with. Even in the internet world, there's so many different platforms you can be involved or you should be avoid with. So guys, stay alert. Be aware of all those demonic activities. Well, TikTok, I want you to improve, right? I want you to be better platform than just, stimulate people's very sexual desire. I don't think it is right thing, TikTok. You should be changing it. So, from today, I'll cancel everything with the TikTok thing. I'll stay focused on the media that at least more healthy. So by this, I think you guys understand what does it mean only do it for the glory of God, right? I can eat pizza, I can even drink some things like liquors. It's okay. But think about others' conscience, not your conscience. Even if you're right, even if you okay, I only drink like one bottle of soju, I'm okay with that. But still, think about others. When you drink soju, people think you are involved certain kind of culture. Yeah, I could smoke marijuana. But think about it. In Korea, it's illegal. Back in the United States, those people who live in the United States smoking marijuana, maybe you can have yourself enjoy and relax, but think about the culture that tied to that very activity. And people think he's a very worldly person. He's just smoking marijuana. And you are instantly tied with the cultures of smoking marijuana. And people often call this, what is that like? Entry drug, right? It's like a door, open door toward other worlds of drugs. So stay away. Stay away from those. Stay away from any kind of demonic culture. So let me summarize. First, you need to stay away any demonic activity, especially something related to sexual immorality. And sexual immorality, in terms of sexual immorality, that's a prostitution, pornography, selling sex, buying sex. In any kind of form, if you are selling your sex, especially TikTok, I strictly against it. It is a demonic activity. And now, when you do things, you should be care of others' conscience. And that way, you can glorify God. That's a basic. There's so many other ways to glorify God, but without doing this, you don't even have the basic. You don't even have a ground. So guys, next week, I'm going to meet you guys on different platform. I'm going to meet you guys in a different way than this. And stay tuned. I'll bring more good stuff. While then, stay focused, glorify God's kingdom. Pastor Jay from Christ Win Culture.